I'm alive!
So this feels like a very weird video to make because I don't often think of a game's graphics as being bad. I mean, the only example I can think of is Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, where the enemies get flushed out into the environment and it's not very clear where the geometry ends because they just built the new graphics on the old graphics but don't fit them perfectly. So sometimes you could be trying to shoot someone but you're actually shooting at a rock, but you just see through it because the new texture doesn't show there. I guess you could also look at it like a lot of the piss filter era games or just very bland looking shooters where again the enemies blend into the environment. Basically, the only times I think of something as having bad graphics is when it negatively impacts the gameplay. But for the most part, I really like just all different kinds of graphics. Even like the weird ass old school original Xbox type of graphics that Max Payne and the original Halo use, where they just kind of take a picture of a real person and they just slap it on top of the face model. So it looks like this stretched out static picture of somebody. Like even that is a vibe, you know? But I wanted to make a video talking about my favorite kind of graphics from a aesthetic and artistic point of view. Now, of course, a lot of you might assume that my favorite kind of graphics would be the N64 kind of graphics, because I've mentioned my love for them before. I like the very clear-cut, geometric, brightly colored and characterized different shapes, whether it be the environment, enemies, or the person you're playing as. I mean, this kind of bleeds into Halo 1. In fact, I'd say that rather than looking like an evolution of a PlayStation 1 game, the first Halo really looks like an evolution of an N64 game because it carries over that very geometric, color-based, clear-cut kind of design. But this actually isn't my favorite kind of visual. You see, there's a couple of games that came out kind of in this middle period between PlayStation 2 era to PlayStation 3 era, where it wasn't completely one or the other. You know, PlayStation 2 is characterized by its very kind of varied and artistically focused different styles, and then PlayStation 3 is all about those Unity wax people. Well, there's something in between, a transitionary period, where I think games looked really good. So today I'm Pliskin, and I want to walk you through my favorite aesthetic in video games. Now, the core of this aesthetic is Resident Evil 4. I like the way the environments look, the way the textures are mapped onto them, the face models are fantastic, the way it looks in gameplay, the way it looks in cutscenes, the way the hair moves. If I had to describe it as something, I'd say it looks like a hand-drawn character that somehow has the soul of a real human being in them. You can see the art, you can see the direction they're trying to go, but there's still a very lifelike element when Leon makes certain facial expressions, when Ashley screams. There's something about this that just looks very attractive to me. And again, this mostly comes in with the facial models, but in the enemy design, the monsters, the way you actually get to see the full transformation of monsters rather than it happening off screen, it really feels like a really good animated movie in regards to its design. But it's not just Resident Evil 4 that does this. Silent Hill 3 and Silent Hill 4 are games that I also feel fits into this kind of aesthetic look. So when I look at Heather Mason or I look at Eileen Gavin, of course the Silent Hill 4 models are much closer to this kind of human soul within an animated character type of vibe. For example, Silent Hill 3 looks great, the facial models look great, the environments look great. I really like the way this game looks. However, when it comes to being very expressive, the models in Silent Hill 3 can leave a lot to be desired. However, in Silent Hill 4, it doesn't matter how expressive Eileen gets or how bland Henry is throughout the entire game, it looks believable all throughout. There's no moments like this. So yeah, when I'm looking at Silent Hill 4, the kind of, not jitteriness, but simplicity yet purposeful design of the environmental geometry and the textures mapped onto that, but more importantly, the actual facial animations and that kind of human element that's conveyed, but still that artistry that's on display there. On the note of facial animations being believable but still looking very artistic, we gotta talk about Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2. Now, these are definitely breaching more towards that 7th generation of consoles type of look, but in a time where most 7th gen consoles looked like this, Left 4 Dead really focused in on making lifelike characters. So when you look at Zoe or Lewis or Bill react to, the undead or this plane crashing, it's definitely not photorealistic, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't lifelike. Another game that does this, that carries over that same kind of RE4 vibe with this artistic direction but lifelike animations bringing the character models to life, would be Haunting Ground. And that makes sense as Haunting Ground was made with a lot of RE4 assets and is a byproduct of RE4's development. But yeah, all of these different games here have this very similar vibe going on, where the goal isn't photorealism, but to create something that feels alive. And while I can appreciate photorealism, there is something really special when someone can take what I could only surmise as a puppet, a kind of plasticky or cartoonish looking puppet, and make it start to behave in a way that's like a human being. Take Dead Space 2 for example. In the few moments where you actually get a little bit more calm and you speak to friendly NPCs, it's really freaking lifelike. This is definitely leaning a lot more towards the plasticky PS3 people than say something like RE4 or Haunting Ground or any of the other games I just brought up. But you get that same kind of effort put into how malleable the faces are going to be when they're saying these things. And it's this kind of animation and this focus to artistic detail that really drags me in and immerses me. I dare say more than something that's photorealistic. Now in the Halo series, you usually get a lot of very ugly facial models. But in Halo Reach, ironically enough towards the end of the 7th generation of games, you get that kind of RE4 type of feel, where the faces are very artistically drawn, but again, you get that very human expressiveness. I don't know what this aesthetic is called. I don't know what this technique is called. If any of you guys know, please let me know down in the comments below. I just wanted to take some time and talk about, my favorite kind of graphics. I mean, by all means, let me know yours down below and tell me why you like it or why you don't like something I'm bringing up here. I'm working a lot in design and I'm looking at stuff like drawings and animation, and I'm starting to appreciate how something that someone has clearly created, someone has clearly drawn out, can be brought to life and be made to feel more human than potentially something that's photorealistic, but lacking in that same kind of animation or deliberate artistic nature. So yeah, I hope that made some sense, and I hope you guys enjoyed. This has been Pliskin, over and out.
This is Solid Snake. Hey, subscribe to Pliskin Boy. God damn it.
You heard him.